What's up, my friend? What's your contention? What political disagreements do you think we have?
Well, I think we disagree for most likely. I mean, I've listened to you before. Like, I'm not 100% sure like where you stand, but like I know you're liberal, right? So I'm like, I think we have different views on BLM. Um, what else? I mean, we could start with. Or are you pro-choice or?
I am pro-choice, yeah.
All right, so yeah, we have a disagreement on that too.
Yeah.
So
I'm quite a bit further left than liberal, but I guess when it comes to BLM, I would probably share the opinions of most liberals. Do you not like BLM?
I mean, I don't exactly agree with it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't really like BLM.
Gotcha. What do you disagree with?
Just like, so I've seen like all the riots and stuff. I don't 100% agree with that. So
Well,
I mean,
sure,
I
but like,
understand I understand where they're coming from, but like I just yeah, I don't see like what's the point of destroying cities and burning them down.
well, the riots are, I mean, no cities are being destroyed. It's, usually if there is a riot, it's a very small contained thing. But the vast, vast, vast majority of BLM isn't rioting. It's protesting. I don't think most people will defend like the concept of the riots. They just tend to admit that's a thing that happens when there's great civil unrest. Do you agree with the protests then? The
I mean,
non-violent?
I mean, I agree. Yeah, obviously, I agree with the protest because like that's the way that they're gonna get their voices out. But like, I just don't see how you could support an organization that I mean, like they've never spoken out like that, or the BLM organization have never spoken out against like those riots that are happening, and they never condemn them.
Well,
So
because
that's like,
condemning them doesn't do anything. They're not caused by an organization. It would be like it would be like asking an organization to condemn serial killing. Like it's a thing that happens, but it's not really beholden to the interests of another group. You know what I mean?
yeah, I know what you mean. But how could you support? I'm confused on how you could support something, even though that stuff still happens.
Well, sure, yeah. Same thing happened back during the civil rights era. I mean, I assume you support Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and such.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously.
Same thing happened back then. Exact same thing. You had protests. Protests were the majority, but every once in a while there was a riot. They call them race riots, and things would get dicey, and people died back then too. And people would go, like, how can you support all this violence and murder? Well, the gist of the movement isn't about the rioting. And very often the riots are caused by the police anyway, so it gets dicey as to who's even responsible for the bad things that do happen. But when you get right down to it, yeah, Martin Luther King Jr. was, ultimately pushing a vehicle for social progress, and social progress always requires a little bit of antagonism with the society you live in. Sometimes that takes the forms of riots, but look, here we are 50, 60 years later, and I think most people would agree it was a good thing. They'll say the same thing about BLM, given enough time.
I mean, but I feel like back then Martin Luther King was actually fighting for something that was like which like the African Americans needed, which was like they really didn't have rights back then, So
Sure, and there are
um,
problems they face today, no? That's what they're
I mean,
protesting.
I mean, they everyone is equal in the United States. I mean, do you agree with me?
Well, no, not at all. In the letter of the law, we're all equal, but in terms of like the actual lives we live and the experiences we have, God, no, no, not even close. Um,
So,
oh yeah,
oh, no, you can continue.
no, no, no. I was just going to continue. Go ahead.
So I'm just what was I gonna say? So I lost my train of thought.
No worries, I ain't going nowhere.
So what exactly are they fighting for then? Like, cause you can't really change like the mindset of some like people. Cause I know what they're arguing against, which is like, I mean, what they're protesting against, which is racist, like the racist mindset of people. Do you agree with me?
Well, I mean, back then, black people were literally second-class citizens, so they were probably protesting against that. I imagine for the most
No,
part.
I'm talking about the Black Lives Matter movement.
Well, for the Black Lives Matter movement, the protests are mostly oriented around police violence because that's a very spicy thing that people care about. You know, it's very easy to get upset about police violence, for example. But the underlying issues behind police violence aren't just like racist police officers, though that's part of it sometimes. It's also stuff like systemic inequality, poor schooling, generational income inequality, that kind of stuff. And that stuff's harder to protest directly because how do you get like millions of people to go out and protest in the streets around the message of, if you look at an aggregate of a 60-year trend over familial wealth accumulation, black families in America experience a 12% decrease. It's much, much, much harder to get people out over that. So you get people out over the stuff people get angry about, the police violence, but the ultimate issue is fixing all those underlying problems.
Oh, all right. Well, so by what's it called? By all those riots and all that, how is that supposed to how is that supposed to stop like the mindset of those people? Which that's what I'm confused about. Because
The riots
because
don't. But again, the
like
riots are like a very, very, very small part of BLM. That's just the riots are a thing that happen with social unrest, but they're not like this the goal of the broader protest. You know?
yeah, I know what you mean. But um, so the protests in general. So I know that like the police system,
Mhm.
like they don't just tell their officers to go out there and like mistreat black people. Do you like?
Sometimes, you know.
I
Can I
mean,
tell
I
you a quick story?
yeah.
In 1993, the year before I was born, so it was a while ago, but these things still happen from time to time. The police commissioner for the city of Beverly Hills, which is where I lived for most of my life, was actually fired because late one night he went out on the dispatch radio and he said that he'd buy a 6-pack for the first officer to bring an N-word in. Didn't say N-word, of course. That's a little anecdotal, but fundamentally, there is a lot of racism in police departments, just like at a baseline level, you know. But that's not the whole of it. That's just a part of the equation.
I mean, again, that was also 1993, but I think times have changed.
Well, 1993 was still after the civil rights movement. Back in 1993, you could have also made the argument there's no racism in the law of America, and you would have been correct back then too. But the underlying problems, have remained.
Well, like what like that story that you said like that wouldn't happen today.
Well,
Like
because
I
the officer wouldn't say that, yeah, but they might think that.
so how are they supposed to control that? Like how are you supposed to stop that
Well,
from
one of the big
happening?
issues we have with the culture of the police. The vast majority of police officers are voting for Trump, which is a pretty good indication of whether or not a person's racist. The like much more than the average population. So we know that whatever we're doing to select for police officers, it's like attracting racist people, which is interesting. The reason for that, of course, isn't just because like cops are magically racist, but it's because the way our policing system is set up is kind of designed to fuck black people over. Sometimes it's just by coincidence, other times it's deliberate. The drug war was literally started in an effort to control black people and hippies, uh, which which it did, you know? Drugs didn't used to be illegal in this country, like at all. You could just do whatever. And then back in the 1960s, Nixon had a trouble with all these anti-war types, the black folk, all these civil rights protesters. So you can't make it illegal to be black. That's not constitutional. You can make it illegal to light up a reefer or to do LSD. And kablamo, you've kind of sort of circumnavigated the issue legally.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're right, but uh, so 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 if you so you know how they say defund the police.
Mm-hmm.
How is that like what they riot against? Like so what do you think they're like at the end of the day? What do they want to happen? Because like you can't really just disband the police and expect and like rebuild it from the bottom. Because I mean, I'm not
Well,
sure
I
like
don't
what
know.
they want to happen.
Do you think we can?
So probably not.
Oh, what makes you think we can? Building it back up from the bottom. Well, what people want kind of depends on how radical they are. There are BLM types who just want better police. In fact, most black people in the country want police. In fact, they want more funding to go to the police so they can get better training and the like. Which, I mean, that would be better than what we have now. It's about where the money actually goes. That's kind of the issue. But when it comes to more radical propositions like defunding the police, and this is something that I would advocate for, it really comes down to how police function and how necessary they are in today's society. Most of what police do isn't responding to violent crime, after all. Most of what they do is checking up on people, patrolling, responding to welfare checks, inspecting property damage, being called to this, that, or the other. A lot of what police do could be done by people who ain't police, maybe people better trained for nonviolent situations. And as for the violent bits they do, cops don't really prevent crime. They just sort of respond to it after it's already happened. And you gotta wonder at a point, especially when you see evidence from places like New York, where crime wasn't that affected by all the police taking a strike. How much do we really need to preserve this big, bulky institution? Like, is it really as necessary as they make us think it is? And I think the answer is no. I think we should explore alternative policing models. Start it in smaller cities, maybe, not New York City, but I think that given some time, maybe we can try community policing or redistributing police budgets to social workers, or maybe we can try investing in communities so there are less criminals to begin with. Over time, we'll find, I think, there are better solutions than the 1990s Bloomberg-esque law and order approach where you're just like, fuck it, get all those criminals back in prison, you know? I don't know if that's the best solution.
So you said you support defunding the police.
Yeah, though with
And
the caveat meaning defunding the police means disempowering the police as an institution, not like literally day one just delete the police, see what happens. But with that caveat that yeah.
so you think that money should be reallocated from the police to some other things.
Yeah, there are a bunch of other
So
institutions that
and
I
but
think
and you also agree in police like being trained more, right? Like better training for them.
it for the police that remain, I think that there needs to be a more stringent training process. Absolutely, yeah.
So how is that supposed to work out if you're taking the if because training costs money,
Mhm.
right? So how if you reallocate the funds, how is that supposed to work out?
I don't think we need as many police, being one of the issues. I also think that our need for
So
police will decrease. It depends on the community, by the way. This is very much a community by community issue, which is why police laws are dictated by cities and counties, not by the federal government. Um, but I think we'll find that one of the main reasons we need police. Take Los Angeles for example. You know, Los Angeles has a massive police department. Billions are put into it. Where do they spend their time? Like, really? LA cops spend their time in the poorest areas of the city. Um, most of the time. If you're walking around, West Hollywood, there ain't many cops there. It's a wealthy area. If you're walking around downtown or East LA, it's like a military occupation. The only reason they need all those cops there, if they need it at all, is because these communities are designed in such ways to produce criminality. I think if we fix that big underlying disparity, we can get rid of the need for a big portion of those cops. I tell you, Beverly Hills, where I grew up, there aren't any quote unquote bad parts of Beverly Hills. The cops in Beverly Hills just sit around waiting for people to do rolling stops. Like that's what the cops in Beverly Hills do. They're not responding to violent crime or anything like that.
so you think that we should reduce the number of police, right?
For the most part, I would like to see a transition towards that. Yeah.
So what about all those like jobs that these people have and like their lives are invested into it? You think they can just like throw it away, or like how is that supposed to work out?
I don't think that we should be weighing the possibility for a massive improvement to society based on the relatively meager worth of the jobs of police. Police are generally held in high respect in this country. I'm sure that given the right opportunities, they will be able to find other, employment. There are plenty of people in this country who have been laid off because their jobs were no longer necessary. I see no reason to keep the police around just because they're so special. Also, they're probably going to get a huge severance package. Have you seen how much money tends to go to police severance packages? Police are
no,
the best treated layoffs in the fucking country. You get laid off from a retail job, you're shit out of luck. You rape some girl at a traffic stop as a cop, they'll keep you on paid leave for 18 months during the investigation, transfer you to another department, wait for you to rape another one, then quietly fire you with a big severance package. We are real goddamn nice to cops when it comes to letting them off their jobs, you know?
yeah, I could agree with that, but also, like you were saying that, like, getting rid of, like I said, like, they're gonna lose their jobs, like, and you said that most likely they'll be able to get their jobs back. What about the people that won't be able to get, like, their lives back to, like, how it was,
Well, I
and
mean,
they
they're
won't be able to
keeping
make
their
enough money?
lives. The people who
I'm
lose their lives are the folks who get shot by cops.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant, like, after like getting laid off.
I mean, they'll have to get another job. If they're given a proper
And if
severance
they can't,
package. Hmm?
and if they can't,
Well, if they can't, then they'll be in the same position that tens of millions of Americans are in right now. I mean, that'd be
so
unfortunate. We can do what we
so
can to fix that, but we're talking
so
about
adding
hmm?
would help. So adding more people to that would help.
adding more people to.
Like the amount of Americans that
So
are jobless.
you have to understand, we're talking about a change in the way this country functions that I believe, and I could make arguments for this, would markedly improve everything about this country, from saving trillions of dollars over the course of 10 years that is no longer being kept towards policing and all the economic damage that we suffer due to impoverished communities, from lessening criminality to fewer prisons. We're talking about a huge upheaval of our society. I don't think that we can keep this from happening because, like, some cops might still not be able to find work even after the severance pay that they'd be given. That would be like saying we can't possibly invest in building roads across the country because if we do, it'll make it harder for horse animal husbandry specialists to find jobs after they get laid off because people are into cars now, you know? Sometimes the wheel of progress turns ahead of those who have lashed their cart to the old way.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I mean, no contempt or nothing. I know the left hates cops, and don't get me wrong, I do too, but I don't want to see these people all starving out in the street or whatever. I'm sure cops think they're doing the right thing. For me, it's just a matter of maximizing social benefit with whatever policy is viable. And
Yeah.
I think that's possible to do. I mean, I don't think we'd be cruel to them or nothing.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Do you want to move on to, like, something else? Like, I'm down to talk about, like, trans issues.
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't know.
I don't get to talk about those that much these days now because of the election stuff. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's not really mentioned that much. Well, so you're like okay with, like, transgenders using the opposite bathroom, right?
Well, I think everyone should be able to use the bathroom that they want to use, basically.
So don't you think that would cause, like, some issues with, like, people pretending to be trans and entering the bathroom and harming others?
But harming others is already illegal. So, I mean,
Don't you think that will, like, like, I don't know, like, um like, happen more often if you let them use like, that bathroom? Because honestly, like, don't you agree with me that somebody could just, like, dress up as a female and then enter
they could do
the
that
women's
now.
bathroom, and not necessarily, because, like, it's kind. Is it not illegal for somebody to do that?
But it would be illegal to do that even if we let trans people into the bathrooms they prefer. If you're
I
harming
feel like,
somebody, I assume you mean sexual assault or molestation, then
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's illegal no matter what. I could go into a woman's bathroom right now and molest a girl, and that would be illegal. Or I could have a credible realization about myself, transition, do it, and that would still be equally illegal. I don't think that it becomes more or less illegal. Like the harm is the same in either case.
But I feel like it'll happen way more often.
Why? Like, if a person wants to, like, molest people, like, they're already setting themselves up to get so First of all, I have to clarify because there's this idea about how like molestation works. Most sexual assault and molestation takes place amongst people who already know each other. The idea of like there's an epidemic of people getting assaulted in bathrooms is relatively uncommon. Um, because as soon as you do that, like you're setting a ticking clock on the police finding you. If you do it in public, you don't have any you don't have any means unless you kill them. And I mean, how far criminal you want to get, sure, but it makes it way 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 harder to get away with it. So the idea that people are gonna like think, okay, it's too risky for me to go into the woman's bathroom and molest that girl now, but if I spend 2 hours with the clothing, makeup, and wig, and then go in, I get 6 extra seconds of being allowed in there before I molest somebody, and I'm also a wanted criminal again. You know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, like I mean, I guess I understand like on a base level the concern, especially since there's a lot of fear mongering about the idea of, I mean, they would call them transvestites here back in the day, like,
Yeah,
abusing women or whatever. But the data just doesn't indicate that's a thing that happens that much. If that was a thing that happened, like if there was a statistically significant increase in in the abuse of people because of trans people allowed in restrooms, then I think there'd be something to talk about there. But the fact that is as it is right now is that the opposite, keeping trans women in men's bathrooms and vice versa, actually does lead to a huge increase in harm against that group of people. Because while a trans woman going into a woman's bathroom probably just wants to piss and get out, a
yeah,
trans woman going into a men's bathroom is opening herself up potentially to a lot of violence, circumstances allowing.
yeah. I agree. So, I, yeah, I agree with you there. So, don't you think that allowing like a transgender to enter the woman's bathroom would make like the American woman like feel uncomfortable? Or
Possibly, but they said the same thing about black women back in the day. That was one of the arguments against desegregating restrooms around the turn of the civil rights movement. White women said that it would make them uncomfortable to be around the comparatively unintelligent and animalistic black women. That's what they said, you know. So, I mean, it may make them uncomfortable, but let us not gatekeep social progress behind the comforts of those who don't know what they're talking about, right?
yeah, I guess.
I mean, I get if there's like a sort of deeply instilled discomfort with some cisgender women around being trans women, I can understand where that can come from in some cases. Not a place of reason, but maybe like some intuitive concern. But I think the solution there is just better education, you know? If we can do that, people are less concerned. This all gets normalized. It's not as big of a deal anymore, you know?
Yeah. Well, do you want to debate about like I don't know, like you kind of schooled me, so
I'm not
it's
schooling
good
you. I'm
to
just no, 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 no.
it's good it's
I
good
don't
to
think of it
learn.
that way. I just like talking with you. That's all.
Uh,
But yeah, I'm happy to talk about whatever you like.
I don't really know anything else like to talk about. So
The abortion stuff is difficult
oh
to
yeah,
talk about because it really comes down to like a. I don't think anyone's ever going to be convinced, personally, by like like a good abortion argument. You know,
yeah.
this tends to be something that people have very deep and strong feelings about. But um, are there any other subjects you have in mind that you think we might disagree on?
Um, yeah. I mean, what else?
Maybe one day you can call back in. I can socialism pill you.
Yeah, I don't really know. There's really nothing else we could talk about.
Gotcha. Do you mind if I ask a question or two about you?
Yeah, go for it.
Are you of age to vote? Do you plan on voting? Are you in
No,
America?
no,
I don't even know.
I I am an American. I'm an American immigrant, so I came to America from Greece, and I'm not. Oh, I'm only 14, so
Ah, gotcha. Nice. What got you interested in politics?
I don't know. I just find it interesting. Like I'm not like it's not something I do a lot of like I mean I like I mean I try to like you know what I'm talking about, like I try to like stay like like educated about politics, like so I know what's going on.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm not like it's not something I spend a lot of time on. So
Gotcha. Do you? So was there like how do I say it, the right term? An impetus, like something in particular that got you into it? I was into politics back when I was 14. I think what got me into it was I didn't really get into it until I was 17. I had an AP comparative government class my senior year of high school, and I had that really got me into it. But before that, I think it was actually can't remember. It must have been some YouTuber, but like way back in the day, you know. But do you know what would have gotten you there?
oh I used to watch that guy Hunter Avalon like a lot, like in 2016.
Oh,
Like
you know,
that's what
I'm
got.
friends with him.
Are you? I
Yeah,
used to watch
actually.
that guy so much. But I know he switched from the right to the left now, right? Something
I've
like
heard
that.
rumors about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess a lot of people are moving over and stuff like that.
yeah.
Nowadays. Whatever the case may be, I don't want to drag you on or anything. I really appreciate you talking to me. Of
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you.
course.
Um,
Have a good one.
Nico sent me. Nico Sam sent me. By the way.
Oh, did they tell you to say that?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Fair. Your pact is complete. Well done.
All right. All
Thank
right.
you,
Thank
Nico
you.
Sam,
Bye.
for allowing this to happen. All right. Take care. There we go. Nice.